evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. I'm looking forward to a really good conversation with somebody who has had a long career so far in tech and will help us figure out what the heck's going on now and how we're going to capture this trend. And Chris Hood, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Well, please spend a couple minutes telling us about your background and how you got to where you are right now.
Sure. My background has spanned technology and marketing for 35 plus years. When I started, I was working at a movie theater, one of my first jobs.
Love it.
And when I was walking into auditoriums and welcoming people to the show that they were there for and telling them about upcoming events. That was like my first public speaking opportunity. I was only 17 years old. And from there, I started to get into these different elements of customer service and support and marketing for film. And then it went into music and television and video games. And I really started to see this blend of storytelling and looking at marketing in a really different way than I think the traditional style of advertising that I think most people thought marketing was. And then I had this choice in my career, like, do I go into technology or do I do something really beneficial for humankind, which was go into the film industry?
Yeah.
And at the time, there wasn't a lot of computers. It was just really this kind of up and coming thing that, mostly it was in NASA and big tech like IBM, and Windows was just starting to blossom. And I decided to go into movies, and rightly or wrongly, it set me on a path, because what became really interesting somewhere around the 2000s was I realized that companies needed to entertain their visitors, their guests, their customers, and websites were just another channel to entertain people.
Yeah.
And so when we started bringing people to the web and starting to engage with them online, there was this gap that was missing. There was this need to bridge between that entertainment value of like going to the movies and the technology of how do you actually make this happen. And then throughout my entire career, I spent, like I said, all 35 years has been helping organizations not only just bridge that gap, but really understand how technology can be used to entertain people and to develop a very streamlined customer experience. And then also on the flip side, how do you take marketing as an example and then leverage and understand the technology to benefit how you are marketing your products and organizations? And so over that course of time, last 5-6 years, I was developing marketing strategies and technology and branding, digital strategies for Google. I left Google a couple of years ago, and then started doing public speaking and writing. I put a book together and more of the fun stuff that we all like to do when we're not working for a big corporation. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think what caught me about the book is that you had one that was focused on kind of traditional for profit businesses, and then you wrote one for nonprofits too. And that's kind of I love that the blend of that, and I often do that too, which is let's see how we can boil this down and make it very very specific for the nonprofits so they can have some help, because they certainly don't have the budgets the rest of businesses do typically.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of times there is this perception also that, well, we do things differently for nonprofits. And what I wanted to show is that you can take the exact same strategies and philosophies and apply them for little to no budget and still be successful. Like, you don't have to do things differently just because you're a nonprofit. And so to put that into those contexts and show the similarities and some of the differences, yeah, I think it's a great way to go about it.
Yeah. So my thing is always just like, please have a customer list and please stratify your donor base so that you know who your A+ donors are, and then build a lookalike audience. If you only did those three things, it would radically change your fundraising efforts.
You know what's amazing about that is if you just knew who your customers were, period, across any organization, you would be more successful. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how many organizations simply don't even know that.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, so that's an interesting challenge. I'm really excited because you are talking about combining some of the things that I think I call the fundamentals, and I think we as silverbacks in the marketing industry understand this pretty well, which is that you have to tell a story. You've got to follow a story arc there, and then you have to have that story arc delivered to qualified prospects, and then you have to have a way to track and see how much efficacy you got from it. And I love the fact that you worked at a movie theater, you worked at Hollywood, and then you worked with video games because of just the way that coalesces into being able to tell stories. So just give me a little bit about what you figured out from those three activities and how you've blended that together.
Yeah, here's a fabulous example. And so if we think about traditional storytelling, that is a fairly linear process. And if we put this into context of television and film,
Yep.
books are typically all also very linear experiences. Looking at it from a marketing perspective, if we think about the customer journey, and
Yep.
I'll use this in quotes, it's a fairly linear experience as well.
Yep.
And yet, what video games does is it brings in a multi-dimensional sort of choose your own adventure style of system. The story is no longer linear.
Right.
There may be a premise that is linear, but how a player chooses to unravel that experience can be through any number of different choices that they make.
I love it.
And so if I then bring this back into marketing, and I also bring it back into AI, which we'll kind of touch on today, and I've talked about this extensively. Today, your traditional customer journey maps are outdated and useless now. Why is that?
Yeah, tell us.
Because we in a digital world are no longer linear. We have short attention spans. We are jumping from one thing to the next. Even if you are on Amazon, and think about this, Amazon has a we will deliver this to you today
Right.
mode. And in the process of going through and selecting something and putting it into our shopping cart, I don't know what the percentage is, but I know that it's pretty high. Somebody has turned around and said, oh, I got an email. Oh, I got a
Right.
text message. Oh,
Yeah.
there's something on Instagram that I want to look at. Oh, wait, I forgot that I put something in the oven. I'm going to run downstairs and I'm going to do that. Right. Like, even in our mode of instantaneous decision making, we have multi-dimensional opportunities that are distracting us from that map. And purely from a marketing perspective, you have to understand that consumers are jumping around and darting around through different types of channels and experiences that the traditional journey map, a linear experience,
Yeah.
no longer applies. And so if we compare it again back to gaming, gaming is a way that gives players a lot of different options and tracks those different options. And so you can experience it the way you want to experience it at the time and the moment that you want to experience whatever that is. And we are nowhere close to doing that from a marketing perspective.
Well, let's dig into that. Let's say I'm a gym owner. I got two health clubs, and I'm trying to sell memberships and personal training and maybe a weight loss program. So I've got a couple different target demos. So then how do I go about building a content map to match, the women's Pilates class as well as the men's weightlifting class?
Yeah.
What do I do?
It's great, because if we think about also your traditional journey maps, most organizations will only focus on the time that consumer spends with you, like within the confines of your experience, within the confines of walking into the gym, working out, and then leaving. You don't
Right.
necessarily think about what they're doing after they've left the gym or what they're doing before they got to the gym.
Jay
And yet-
Abraham. That was Jay Abraham's genius, right? The continual
Yeah.
parade, right?
The reality is,
Yeah.
before I got to the gym, I went to the donut store and I ordered a couple of donuts and
Right.
ate them before I went to work out. Like,
Yeah.
did you think about that? Do you realize that? There are all of these things that we are doing that create the journey. I'll use movie theaters because it's the thing that I'm most familiar with.
Yeah.
Think about, like, now, today we don't really go to the movie theaters anymore.
No.
But if you think about a traditional movie theater experience, for me, it was, well, okay, let's call the babysitter. Let's make plans for the restaurant and make
Yeah.
sure we've got reservations.
Yeah.
As we're driving to the theater, let's stop and maybe we have to get gas. And then, let's stop at the grocery store so we can pile up on snacks and sneak those snacks into the movie theater.
Very important.
We get to the theater, we decide, do we go sit down first and then go to the concession, or do we go to the concession and then go sit down,
Or split up.
or split up? You go
Yeah.
to get the seats, I'll get concession. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we go through the movie, and then the movie's over. We leave the movie. We then drive back home. We pay the babysitter. We go to bed. We talk about the movie we saw. We might post it on social media. It was a good movie. It wasn't a good movie. All of these things are happening. And I guarantee you, from a traditional journey map, none of those things are actually on the journey map.
Right.
Right?
Yep. Sure.
And so you can take the same thing for the gym. Like, before I go to the gym, like, what time do I wake up to go to the gym? Like, do I have a routine that I do before that? Do I have to go get gas in my car because the gym is away? Do I bike to the gym?
Yeah.
Right. And then after I leave the gym, do I go to, like, get a smoothie to, unwind and relax? These things that are on the exteriors of your journey map are those multidimensional things that change what our decision-making process is. And if you can understand that, then you can create this more complete understanding of the consumer experience. I will also add, these are opportunities for you to partner with different organizations.
Indeed.
I had an extensive conversation once with a mattress company. And we were going through this exact same exercise. What's happening before they come in to buy a mattress? What are they doing after they leave, with either they purchased or they didn't?
Yep.
And then I made the suggestion, when was the last time you actually partnered with one of your mattress competitors down the street? And they're like,
Never.
we would never do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm like,
Ooh.
why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Like, there's a reason that Google often partners with their biggest competitors.
Yeah.
Microsoft, as an example, on Nest home devices is Microsoft Zoom. You're thinking, well, wait a second, that's a competing product to Google Meets. Like, why would they do that? Because they recognize that if they integrate into the ecosystem their competition, then more people are going to actually buy the hardware device.
Right.
So these types of these are the realities that you have to think through that create these multidimensional decision-making processes that if you can tap into successfully, then you have a better understanding of, one, who your consumer is, back to what we started with,
Yep.
and two, you're going to be able to adapt and create a better experience for them in the long run.
I love it. So then I guess tactically, what are some of the tactics that we have to start paying attention to with a little more fervency?
Well, go through the process that I just talked about. I
Yep.
ran a workshop with a large healthcare provider, and I said, here's our workshop. It was an actual workshop activity. I want you to think about all of the things that you believe your consumers do before they even get to your store or before they even think about you.
Yeah.
What are they? And again, it could be anything from, oh, Joe went and got some donuts before they went to work out. Oh, wait, Kim rode her bike to go work out. Oh, like just focus on what do you think are those activities before they engage with you? And then, do that for like 5-10 minutes, brainstorm it, and then do the exact same thing. Now, what do you think they're doing after they leave? And spend another 10 minutes brainstorming that. Come up with a whole list of ideas, and then you start to build out a richer persona of who your consumers are. And then you can start figuring out, now, how do we attach ourselves to those other activities? There's and I talk about donuts and working out here a couple of times. That's because there is a 24 Fitness down the street from me, and in the parking lot is a donut shop.
I love it.
And I'm literally thinking, like, there's a match here, right? There's literally an opportunity for you to partner with each other in some way, even though you think that you are on completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
There's still humans that have to use each of your
That's
stores.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. They are still humans. Like, and the donut shop does sell smoothies. So maybe somebody, like, instead of thinking it as a donut shop, think of it as a smoothie shop that happens to sell donuts.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So yeah, I love that you're painting such a deep psychographic perspective of each of your target groups, and you're figuring out where they live and what they do. So that it's an uncommon exercise for most small business owners. We know that.
Yeah, and they will make decisions in between that as well. If I'm working out, I am not sitting there thinking about working out. I'm listening to music. I'm listening to your podcast. I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm doing other things while I'm working out. And you know what? In that moment, that is the starting moment for somebody else's experience.
Yeah, I love it.
Go back to Amazon. Oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot I needed to order that blah, blah, blah on Amazon while I'm on the treadmill. Now, maybe I can actually do it while I'm on the treadmill, which again shows you that there's this intersection of different experiences that are happening in real life that you have to consider. It's no longer about touch points.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even touch anything anymore.
It's true. I just talk into my phone all the time.
Yeah. We're telling Alexa, so you've got to get out of the mindset of touch points and get more into this concept of, multi-dimensional experiences that intertwine and interconnect in different spots.
I love it. Well, I'm going to shift gears here and let's dig into a little bit about the tech stack that you're seeing for you personally and for your businesses, and then for your clients' businesses. It's kind of small and mid-sized businesses. What does it look like that you're helping to integrate right now for clients?
Data is still king. And I say data is still king because AI can't function without data.
Right.
And AI, more broadly, isn't going to be as impactful for you as data is. So data is still king, and it's still a huge thing that people are consistently trying to wrap their minds around. Like, the data is going to help inform your decisions. I still see a lot of organizations that say, I just know what my customer wants.
Oh,
I'm just
going to make right in the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah. I once said, if you believe you know what your customer wants, you're going to lose those customers.
Oh, I know, it kills me. I mean, I always say I'm not smarter than the marketplace, and you and I do this every day, and we still don't know, right? So
yeah, I'm smart enough to know that you don't know.
Exactly. Yes. So that's why we want to test some things and figure it out. Yeah.
So data is huge. Security is becoming increasingly more critical. This is a combination of the state of affairs that we are in the world, the global experience. I've often said that the next major war is going to be a digital war. It's not going to be a physical war. Cyber crime, cyber security, cyber everything, right? Like, protect people's data. It's also something that's top of mind for a lot of people, right? I don't want to do business with you unless I know that it's protected. Like
Interesting.
the security and the awareness of these, things are increasingly more familiar to people. And so, when I have random people say, well, what do you think, is my information secure? Like if
No.
random people are asking that, then you know that it's top of mind.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got to spend some time, exploring in that space.
Yeah, security. Yeah, when the Federal Reserve Bank and your Social Security numbers are out on the market, we got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, what about you? What are you using kind of in your daily activities? Are there any tools that you're on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm using various AI tools. We can dive into that a little bit more, but yeah, AI is definitely something that I've engaged with, uh, both for just using it for times when I, think it's viable, and also just so that I can be more aware of what's out there and what people are doing with it, and how it can be used. So automation as an example, a lot of that. So AI is definitely a part of my daily use. Then I'm using, obviously, social media is big part of my day, and then uh analytics, which goes back to the data. All forms of analytics and insights into data is where I spend a lot of my time. And then web, I'm still doing a lot of web development and building websites for individuals, and building web applications. And so the interconnection between web and mobile devices, mobile applications, those types of experiences, are all there. VR, not so much. Blockchain and Web3. That's a that's a whole nother conversation that we could probably spend, another 30 minutes on.
For sure.
But yeah, I think I'm in the stuff that I think are, again, the most common stuff that we've talked about: the security elements, the data elements, analytics, insights, AI, for different purposes, web,
Yeah.
mobile.
Yeah, love it. I think what you're talking about too, with just the ability to API all these disparate softwares together and create these very long chains that do things that have been very time consuming for us, is to me what I'm most excited about right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the API. One of the companies that I'm working for is a company called Poly API, and it is basically a generative AI API management tool.
Awesome.
And this is one of these really interesting conversations, that organizations are so focused on AI right now because it's the bandwagon, it's the flavor of the month, and yet the API that sits behind it is more critical.
Yeah.
In fact, you can't even get AI in every single form that you're using it without an API. And if I went to a typical CEO and I said, "Are you investing in APIs or AI?" They're going to say, "I'm investing in AI." Whereas you should be actually investing in APIs,
Right.
because it would be like, are you investing in electricity or are you investing in food? Like, which one are you going to? Your company can't survive without electricity today,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yep.
Like 100% of the companies in the world are using APIs.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when you start to kind of break this down and think about those opportunities purely from a back end technology perspective. The APIs, application programming interfaces, are what your consumers are using to actually engage with you. The APIs are what you are using to get those insights and data analytics from what the consumers are doing with you. Your mobile devices are using APIs, not AI, right? Like
Right.
on and on and on. And so, I would spend a lot of really hard thinking here about how you're thinking about that integration so that you can do all of these other things that you want to do, again, on behalf of your consumers.
Yeah, I love it. That's interesting about Poly API. So what kind of what's their spot in the market?
So they're basically rapid acceleration for development. So think about it like a co-pilot sort of
Yep.
approach, where we have Polly that is sitting within your development platform, and you can say, hey, I need an API to help integrate this type of solution. And Polly basically helps you develop that API to perform whatever that integration or solution is. And the great thing about Polly is that it can learn and train from other APIs.
Nice.
And so if we think about an enterprise type of experience, a lot of enterprises have multiple APIs that are redundant, or they have teams working on an API and they don't know that another team has already done this API.
Yep.
And so it creates this environment where it knows about all the APIs within your organization. It has documentation. It can tell you how to do it. It can communicate it in your own language. So if you want to see it in, say, Japanese or German or Spanish, it will relay all of that through the AI process. But the really fabulous thing about this is that if you have a consumer experience, we spend a lot of time in hospitality. So, use the example of I'm a, going all the way back, like I'm a traveler, a business traveler. I want to book my hotel room, and I want that hotel room to have all of my things ready for me when I arrive. So the temperature is set in the room to what I want it. The television is changed to the channel that I want it. Like all of these kind of interoperable things, Polly API can actually help you build that consumer experience by simply saying, I want a consumer that I know enough about them that when they book travel and they arrive at my hotel, they can already unlock the room with their mobile device. The temperature is set, the TV is set, right? All of these things are provided to them. And it's all being done, again, through the experience of APIs, and then building that out pretty rapidly, like cutting the time of traditional development by 90%.
Wow.
Just because you're leveraging AI to help understand the APIs and then help build upon those experiences.
Well, that's amazing. So it's like it becomes a smart world for each of us as individuals, right? In terms of our preferences. So that's amazing. Chris, you and I could spend probably the next 3 hours talking. I'd have to go get a glass of wine, but I know it's really been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I really enjoy what you were talking about in terms of user experience, especially about the customer journey and the insights in that. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
If people want to get in touch with you or check out your books, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is find me on my website, chrishood.com. And there you got my book and how to get in touch with me, all my social media profiles. You can find me on LinkedIn, connect. Happy to chat.
All right. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show if you're willing to do it in a couple months, and we'll see what else is going on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. You have a great evening.
You too. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel